Welcome to Land of the Bible. I'm your host, David Sussman. This week, we're going to explore the path of the patriarchs. In the biblical highlands of the Judean mountains lies one of the most ancient and sacred roads in the land of Israel, the path of the patriarchs, known in Hebrew as Derech HaAvot. This historic route has witnessed the footsteps of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob as they journeyed between the great biblical cities of Shechem, Jerusalem, and Hebron. It is here that communities thrived, where kings and prophets walked, where the echoes of our ancestors still linger in the stones beneath our feet. But the path of the patriarchs is more than just an ancient highway. It's a living connection between our past and present, between the foundations of our faith and the Jewish people who continue to call this land home. Join me as we journey along the path of the patriarchs. I live in Gush Etzion, which is where the path of the patriarchs is located. And it's so special to be here because there's so much physical evidence that proves the historical authenticity of the Bible. From Beersheba, which was also one of the hometowns, maybe even the main hometown of Abraham, leading north from there, you have Susia. Susia is an amazing community that flourished during the Byzantine period, roughly 300 CE to all the way to roughly about 1200 CE. Just north of that, you have Hebron. How can one come to Israel and not visit Hebron? If you're on a spiritual trip to touch the roots and the core of our spiritual history, the essence of it, there's no better place to go to than Hebron. This is where the patriarchs and the matriarchs are buried. It is the original holy city. It was the original capital of Judea, of Israel. When David will become king, his palace is located in Hebron for the first 7.5 years before he moves to Jerusalem. I mean, Hebron, that is a place everyone should visit. In fact, the oldest active building in the entire world is the building that sits on top of the cave in which our ancestors are buried in. It was built 2,000 years ago by King Herod, this same king who built the Western Wall and the Temple Mount, that second temple. So when we think about the temple, we usually think of what Herod's temple looked like. Obviously, the Jews have been going there for millennia, 4,000 years. Later on, the Christians during the Byzantine period, they're going to build a beautiful church on top of that building. The Muslims are going to come here. When the IDF was able to liberate the city of Hebron and once again bring it back to Jewish rule, to Jewish sovereignty, we were able to return to our holy city. And thank God more and more Jews are moving to Hebron and the Jewish community continues to grow. All through the generations, on the 3 pilgrimage festivals, people would travel this path on their way to Jerusalem. And those 3 primary pilgrimage festivals were Passover, Shavuot, and Sukkot. So these millions of Jews traversed this road that we're walking along right now in order to arrive to Jerusalem. They would need to know how far they are from Jerusalem, how much longer they need to walk. When the Romans conquered the land of Israel and took over, they didn't do anything new. They took what existed and made it, well, some people will say better, but definitely bigger. And the path of the patriarchs is no different. They came here, they broadened the road, they even paved the road. In some sections you can see the original paving stones that the Romans left behind. But one of the things the Romans were excellent at doing was mapping out their empire, the roads, and the distances between the cities. And they would mark these distances with mile markers. Now, a Roman mile is almost exactly the same mile that people would use, say, in America. So this marker noted that we were 12 miles from the city of Jerusalem if we were heading from Hebron, which is just south of here. So just imagine pilgrims, people from various ethnicities walking along this path during Roman times, or maybe even with horse and carriage, would see this mile marker and know they had 12 miles to go until they arrived to the holy city of Jerusalem, which at that time, unfortunately, was ruled by the pagan Romans. Another historical event that takes place along the path of the Patriarchs is the story of Hanukkah. Not the ultimate redemption of Jerusalem, but one of the famous battles that takes place right here, when an entire Greek legion is approaching Jerusalem, which is only 12 miles away. And when they came, they had with them war elephants, these massive beasts. And when the Jewish fighters saw them, they thought, how will it be possible to kill one of those? Eleazar, seeing the fear in the minds and the hearts of these Jewish warriors, took it upon himself to charge against not just any of the Greek elephants, but rather the one that was decked out in golden armor, realizing that this must have been the general, the leader of the troops. And he runs up to him and he takes his sword and he stabs the underbelly of the elephant, killing it instantly. Unfortunately, the elephant falls on top of Eleazar, killing him immediately. But this proved to the Jews who were fighting against the Greeks that we could be victorious, and victorious we were. To honor Eleazar, the nephew of Judah the Maccabee, the village you can see behind me was named after him. Another promising Jewish village here along the path of the Patriarchs. There are Jewish ruins along the part of the path of the Patriarchs I'm speaking of. And these are mikvaot, ritual baths. When the temple stood, all people coming to Jerusalem would ritually purify themselves before arriving to the holy city. We're one day's travel to Jerusalem right now, and right here they discovered dozens of mikvaot, like the one you can see right here. Now this mikvah is an extremely special mikvah, and like I said, they found dozens of them just like this, because this mikvah has two entrances and a wall that separates them. Actually, it's got one entrance and an exit, because people would enter the mikvah in an impure state, immerse themselves in the holy waters of the mikvah, and then exit this side purified. Now this is just incredible. We know that people used this 2,200 years ago. In fact, it just recently rained and there's water in the mikvah right now. I can almost guarantee you that there were people who came out here in order to purify themselves in the waters before they became a little murky like they are right now. And the reason why is that after a few short days, this water will seep into the limestone, which is very porous, because the sealant that they used 2,000 years ago is obviously eroded off of most of the mikvah, but not all of it. Come with me inside. As we come into the mikvah, you can see that right here it's probably about 3 feet deep of water. One could actually immerse themselves in the water. But in this upper right-hand corner, amongst all the cobwebs over here, you can see some of the original plaster from 2,000 years ago, which would have covered the entire mikvah, preventing the water from seeping into the limestone, and thus no mikvah. You need to have water. Welcome to Susia, an ancient Jewish village that existed along the path of the Patriarchs during the Second Temple period all the way through the 9th century CE. In today's journey, we're going to learn all about the history of Susia, how they lived, their economy, their spiritual life, the defense mechanisms here, as well as their water supply. So come with me. So before we even enter into the city, I want to take you over here to one of the burial chambers that existed outside the walls of this ancient city, because Jews do not bury the dead inside the city, we bury the dead outside the city. So come with me over here. What we have over here is a classic burial chamber that was influenced by the Greeks and the Romans. How it worked was once somebody was deceased, they would be buried inside, and this rolling stone would seal the body inside. And it takes roughly about 12 months or so for the body to decompose. And then they would roll that stone back and take the bones out and place them in these smaller boxes, not a sarcophagi, but an ossuary. And we even have a few ossuaries that are still here. And you can see the length of the ossuary would be roughly the size of our longest bone, which is our femur. And then they would place all the bones inside, close up this ossuary, and inside this weeping chamber that I'm in right now, stack the ossuaries on top of one another, and an entire family for generations could be buried here in this burial chamber. Let's go head on into the city now. What we have over here is the outside city walls, and on the other side you can see that the exterior wall of the city was also a wall in people's homes. So this is one of the dwellings over here, one of the houses that was abutted to the walls of the city. You know, this city thrived during the Byzantine period. Roughly 300 to 900 CE is when it really, bloomed. Look at here, we have an ancient mikveh, just like we saw on the other section of the path of the Patriarchs. This was probably in somebody's home. This must have been a wealthy person's home. And they would go and have their personal mikveh in order to purify themselves. And there's still some water in there because it's rained recently. So not everybody lived above ground. Some people actually dwelled below ground in a dwelling cave. Let's check this one out, see what it looks like. Look over here. This was their cistern where they collected their water, their personal water source here. So you can see inside here, they had some walls that they partitioned some rooms here. Maybe this was used to store food or livestock. That could have been used for a number of different reasons. And maybe this actually was their home where they slept and cooked. You can actually see on the inside, it looks pretty blackened. So maybe there was a fire in here at some point. It's a mystery. Here in Susia, their economy was based mainly on trade. And they made beautiful pottery vessels, they produced olive oil, they weaved fabric here. Let's go inside and see how this home turned their basement into a pottery factory. Wow. Wow. This is amazing in here. That the family who lived here must have been excellent potters, because remnants of a pottery wheel over here has remained, where they would have spun, with their feet, a mechanism that would spin a plate on the top here, where they would take their clay to form their vessels in the exact same way people make pottery today. Things haven't changed too much in a couple thousand years. And then they would take their vessels and sell them to people here in the community, or maybe even trade it to nearby villages. Very cool. What we have over here is a well-preserved cistern, one that details how it functioned, because if you look over here by my feet, you can see that there is like a small gutter that would trap the rainwater that fell all around, not just where the cistern is, and it would channel that water into an opening, filling up the cistern down below. And then over here, they would have something to cover the cistern to prevent birds from going in, or just animal droppings, or an animal coming for water and slips in, or God forbid, somebody's child. So cool walking through the ruins of these ancient homes here. It's just phenomenal how accessible everything is. So this is really neat. One of these ancient cisterns is filled with water, and they provided an opportunity for us to pull up water from this ancient cistern just like they would 2,000 years ago. They'd have some bucket just like this tied to a rope. Of course, they wouldn't have a plastic bucket back then, but probably pottery or maybe metal. But they would take the water and then put it into this trough and maybe allow their livestock to drink, or it looks like there's a little bit of an irrigation here that they would be able to water their fields or whatever it was that they were growing here, or provide water for themselves. Let's see, bombs ahoy. Very cool. Oh, wow, that is amazing. Look at this. These beautiful arches to the synagogue, to the Beit Knesset in Hebrew, the house of prayer for the community here in Susia. If it looks this good from the outside, I bet you it looks even better on the inside. Come with me. Look at this, we have a rolling stone here, but not for a burial cave. They wouldn't bury anybody in the synagogue. This must be for defense purposes. If they're under siege or under attack, one last form of defense is everybody could huddle in the synagogue and they could seal it off. Wow, look at these incredible pillars here with some beautiful capitals and a lintel. Oh my gosh, it gets better. Look at these mosaics over here. Wow, this is just incredible here. These must be the benches in which the congregants sat on. Take a look at the beautiful mosaic here. It is extremely ornate, beautiful, intricate. There's a depiction of the temple over there with the menorah. Looks like some type of animals over there to the side, maybe the korbanot, the sacrifices that they offered in the temple. This, of course, served the community after the temple was destroyed. So they would remember the services that were done in the temple through the depictions on the mosaic floor when they came here to pray. Just as I thought, we found a part of the mosaic with some beautiful Hebrew script, the same Hebrew letters that we read today in books, common books here in Israel. But these letters were placed here in this mosaic floor 1,500 years ago, and it is a dedication to the mosaic floor by a rabbi, a holy rabbi, a Kohen, a Jewish priest, a Kohen, by the name of Issi. And he dedicated this mosaic floor at the wedding of his son. Wow, that's incredible. And look here, at the very, very end, it says, Shalom al Yisrael. Peace be upon Israel. May peace be upon Israel now and forever. Amen. The path of the patriarchs isn't just about physical evidence connecting Jews to the land of Israel. It's also about the present and the future of Jews living in the land of Israel. All along the path, it's speckled with thriving, modern Jewish communities. One of those is the community we're in right now, the community of Efrat. Let's now go explore the streets and meet one of the residents of this community.
I live in Efrat, which is the heartland of Judea. It's 20 minutes south of Jerusalem and 20 minutes north of Hebron. And these are two very holy cities. And we're right in the middle, right on the path of the Patriarchs. I love living in Efrat because it's such a tight-knit community of people who really care about one another. There are tons of parks, tons of nature, beautiful rolling hills. It's incredible that if I walk right outside my house, I'm literally standing on Jewish history from my forefathers, 2,000 years old. The archaeology here is unbelievable. There have been times that I've taken my family on hikes, and on the hikes, you could literally see the aqueduct. We would literally go inside the aqueduct. People have found archaeology from 2,000 years ago in these aqueducts as they're hiking. I've never found anything. I'd like to find something, but it's incredible that I can take my kids on these paths, on these hikes, knowing that our forefathers walked this land so long ago. It literally connects all of us to our biblical heritage. It's incredible, right? On the path of the Patriarchs.
Just outside of Efrat is a unique development known as the Eitam Farm. In fact, it's the frontier of modern Zionism here in Judea and Samaria, as a lot of the state-owned land has been encroached upon by illegal Arab development. Without people settling the land, the Arabs will consume it. So these young couples, families, roughly about a dozen of them, that have established themselves on this hilltop are really the future of the state of Israel, ensuring that this important land stays in Jewish hands. In fact, there's even archaeology here that dates back to the Second Temple period, to the Hashmoneans, aqueducts that brought water to Jerusalem, the same aqueduct system that Herod later on will enhance, bringing the waters to Solomon's pools and then onward to Jerusalem for the inhabitants as well, for the work that was being done in the temple. One of the ways that they protect the land is with sheep, shepherding sheep and goats, just like our ancestors did thousands of years ago. Just imagine, we're on the outskirts of Bethlehem, the place that David grew up in. These are the hilltops in which King David shepherded before becoming king of Israel. How important is it to come and to visit this area and to support these farms? As if we needed physical proof, but we have it anyways, of Jewish people living here on the land thousands of years ago. This is an aqueduct system, like many of the aqueducts we see here in Gush Etzion, that was built all the way back to the Hashmonean period, the story of Hanukkah, that was renovated and enhanced by King Herod, bringing water to Jerusalem. What's awesome about this part of the aqueduct is it actually cuts through the mountain. So they built a tunnel that goes through the mountain. It's just awesome to be able to walk through ancient history. Wow. That was so cool. If that wasn't enough of an adventure for you, we're now gonna head on over to Alon Shvut, another neighborhood here along the path of the Patriarchs, to go ATVing in this most beautiful biblical land. Come with me. So here we are in one of the neighborhoods along the path of the Patriarchs called Alon Shvut with my friend Aryeh, one of the premier attractions here where you get to go on ATVs to hidden places that are inaccessible even with a regular car. So we're gonna jump in, we're gonna zoom around this amazing biblical landscape. Let's go. Here we go. Wow, this is amazing. ATVing through Judea, Samaria, along the path of the patriarchs. Recently, in Alon Shvut, in one of the communities here, there was a hero who fought against the terrorists. His name was Yonatan Elzari, and he was killed in action. And so the community over here started to build. They're not finished yet, but there's gonna be a beautiful pool here for the public to come to. And as they were constructing this, what did they find? Look at this. Just like we saw on the path of the patriarchs. This is a mikvah. But this isn't a mikvah that's for, the pilgrims on the path of the patriarchs. This is for the small community, the Jewish community that existed here during the Second Temple period, that they could enter the mikvah and purify themselves. Above ground, we would have had houses. This was a whole Jewish village on top of this hilltop in Judea and Samaria. This is Jewish land. What more proof do you need than the rock, the historical evidence? This is so cool coming out here. This is amazing. Let's continue on the ATV and see what other things we can find. Wow, that was fantastic. Oh my gosh, that was definitely the highlight of the day. Today is guaranteed to be a fascinating day as we visit the old city of Jaffa and discover its hidden secrets, as well as visiting the modern city of Tel Aviv. Thanks for watching. Make sure to join us next time as we connect you to the people, places, and land of the Bible.